Good morning. It is just before 5 a.m. here in Calgary. I think the sun is now just starting to peak up. So the good news is that we might be able to do some of these outside in the coming weeks, which I'm super excited about. In the meantime, today we are going to focus in on some hips and the shoulders. Now, I know very well the people who are following this have a wide range of ability. So today's practice is going to have a couple of little options in here depending on where you're at. Now, these are not modifications. I really want to insist on that because where my focus is to help you move better. It's not just simply to give you something to do to keep the class moving forward for you. It's really about the focus of your attention, which is why in the little blurb, I've written here that there are a series of movements we're going to do and 3 points of focus. The first point of focus is you and your movement. The second point of focus is to notice what's going on in your brain and the mental gyrations that can go on in terms of what we believe or what we think about our movement. Also, you know, that scampering squirrel or the puppy that's like going all over the place. Sometimes that's the way our brain can go too. And so I'm going to have you bring yourself back and notice what's going on in your brain. And the third one, of course, is your breath. Okay, so those are the 3 points of focus as we do this movement. We're going to start on our backs, have a chair and a strap handy. We're going to come into one that I do a lot. And the reason being is because it's such a great way of assessing your movement and just where you're at. And it's also really good to help improve your mobility and stability. And that one is this. You're going to take your leg on up, rotate the leg bone, take the ankle to the knee. Now remember, with this, your pelvis is quiet. So some of you are going to have some challenges with this, right? So if you would rather put a strap around your foot and then raise that foot to the sky, you can do that. And then from here, you've got the support with the strap and just gently notice how that leg bone is rotating in your hip socket. Then place that ankle down. Now, some of you are going to recognize that that leg bone does not move very much in the hip socket. And that's when you can do a little bit of hooray, yay, I'm noticing my leg bone doesn't move in my hip socket. Because the likelihood of you also having some other stuff going on in your body is likely correlated, I said that on purpose, to what's going on in your hip, okay? So you get to explore that. Now I'm going to take my hand on the back of my hip, or I like to just call it my bum, and then rotate the leg bone away. Yeah, and the idea is that I'm using my butt muscles, but I'm not contracting first to make that happen. I'm just moving my leg bone and my butt's contracting, but I'm not using the front of my hip. Yeah? Okay, so now from here, take that ankle off. So you're really starting to get a good feel. Take the leg up, rotate it, bring the ankle onto the leg. You're getting a really good feel of what your leg bone is actually doing in your hip socket. Yeah? And so many people can become resigned to the way their leg bone moves in their hip socket. And I will continue to preach from the basement of my house that your tissue can change. Yeah, you might have some degeneration in there for sure. There might be some osteoarthritis. There might be some age-related changes, some trauma and other injury-related changes. And those skeletal things don't change. However, your tissue, your muscle tissue and your fascia can. So there's still possibility. There's still opportunity there. I'm not being Pollyanna at all. And then bring that ankle up, back off and come back. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. This is movement number 2. Ankle comes onto the knee. This is another favorite of mine. I'm going to do this from 2 angles for you. First one's from this side. We're just going to rock left and right. Okay, so I'm going to turn this way from the back side. Ankle comes onto the knee, and we're just going to rotate our pelvis left and right. And when we're doing this, what makes us super fun, watch what your brain says about that, is that as we start to rotate over to this way, and as then we start to rotate over to this way, that pelvis is moving relative to the rib cage. The front of the hips is not engaging. And this can be really challenging for some of you because you're needing to control the movement with your abdomen without engaging the abdomen first. So don't brace and then move because then you're really going to limit your breathing. But lots of people, because they don't have that awareness of their control, a lot of times it's just an awareness thing.
they use the front of their hips to control that movement, which is not what we want to do. Okay, so we're just going to play with that. You can move all the way to the floor. It is possible. This is a possibility to move all the way to the floor. Shoulders stay on the ground. You want to watch that as you do the movement that you don't slide. So how that might look is you may kind of do this, or you might find your pelvis slides up. This is the pelvis moving into rotation, right? The pelvis is generating that movement. Torso moves into rotation. Good, and like that. That's all. Okay. Now we're going to go to the other side. So some of you who have sciatic issues or SI joint stuff or other back-related stuff, I'm receiving emails from a number of people and that you follow me. And the idea here is that you've got to move in the range where you actually have the capability. I write back and I talk about the notion of capacity and capability. So if you can compensate and say like you can go all the way down here in your shoulder lifts, you've got great capacity. You're doing it in a very compensated way, so you don't have the capability. So then the aim is to help you grow your capability so you express your capacity, right? And that's what I love helping people with. I love helping you get to where you really want to go. So where you are here, you want to be somewhere else. Let's find what the gap is and let's help you get there. I'm all for that. All right, good. So there we go. We get to play with that and get to notice and see and feel. Maybe in your brain, you might be saying some things like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. That's my movement. And the answer is probably yes, it is. And it's okay because now you've got a reality check on what's going on and you can do something about it. Okay. All right. So here we are. We're now going to start to rotate this leg bone. So first of all, we're on our side here. Yeah. And so we're going to rotate. So forward and back. Now, some of you are going to find that being on the side of your hip is like no-go. So then you can either do one of two things. You can either put a blanket underneath your hip, but make sure the blanket covers all the way down to your feet and to your shoulder so that your hips aren't higher than either your bottom of your foot or your shoulder. Or go back to the last one we did because it might be that things are just a little too tight and a little too tense here and it's too much. No problem. You don't have to do every movement here. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean you're not getting benefit from the other one, okay? So think about that. Now, we're going to start to play with rotation and then flexion of that leg and that knee. Yeah, well, the knee's doing the flexion. The hip's doing the rotation and the flexion. Yeah, we're just going to do that. So this leg bone is just doing that. And there's a little bit of balance that's required, yeah? So just place your hand very easy on the mat here. And maybe just hold it. And breathe. Good. Okay, let that go. Other side. Flip around. Okay. Hand easy. You're not leaning your whole body onto it. So if you need to, by all means, just go back to the last one that we were doing on the floor on your back because it's very similar in movement. And it may simply be that being in this plane is very difficult for you, and so you don't have to be here. And notice your breathing. Notice if you're holding your breath in order to keep you still. And can you just let the reins of that go a little bit? And notice just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. Good. Notice where your stability actually comes from. Good. Okay. Lovely. Let's roll on over. We're going to come up to standing now. I'm going to reposition my little mic pack here. Okay. So now we've got the chair. And we're going to come into a standing twist. So we're going to take one foot up onto the chair. Now, honestly, this chair is probably a little bit high for me, but it still will work. Ideally, it'd be nice to have a chair that's about here, but sometimes that's just not possible. This will still work. Even something a little bit lower will work. And you also want to make sure you choose something that makes sense for your body in the sense of if being at 90 creates pain, then drop it down. Yeah? Okay, from here now, we're going to take a twist. We're going to start with our hands in front. I'd love you to take the middle finger under your chin.
The reason being is that a lot of people will lead their twists with their head, and I want you to think more about your torso. So think about your rib cage. I'd love for you to explore the idea of not moving your pelvis. I know there's teachers out there who do teach that, and if that's the way you do it, then go right ahead. From a curiosity standpoint, that's why I'm saying I would love for you to do it, is just to see what rotation is available, rib cage to your pelvis. I have found, we're going to do one more and then we're going to hold. I have found that those people who have sciatic issues, SI joint issues, a lot of back stuff, a lot of pelvis stuff, that when we can actually get them moving really, really well, so they're aware of how their obliques connect in to make the twist happen and the relationship between their ribs and their pelvis, when they start to develop all of those fundamental competencies in movement, their pain goes down, right? It's so easy to do movements as exercises, like the to-do list. Check off 5 exercises and here we go. But the thing is that getting better and recovery and really moving from pain to possibility is more than checking off boxes. Okay, now if you want to add this arm, so all we've done is move the arm out to the side. Recovery, I'm going to say that again, recovery and healing, moving from pain to possibility, to traverse the gap between where you are to where you want to go is more than checking off boxes. There you go. And then come on back and then drop that leg. It requires awareness. It requires awareness in movement. It requires awareness in breathing. It's an internal job. And initially there's this desire to get something fixed, which I'm all a fan of because we do want symptom relief. But then after that relief happens, we need to get into retraining patterns and habits. Hands come up and let's take a twist. Yeah. And if we don't change those habits and patterns, much like anything else that we want to change, whether it's we want to start running or training for a big race or losing weight or any other habit, it takes time. Not a lot of time, but it takes time and consistency. Yeah? And a lot of people who follow this feed that I do each day, I think I'm on like 88 since the start of the world shutting down, is that they tell me how much better they're feeling, how good they're feeling, because of the consistency with the focus on their body, on their brain, on their breath. Good. Okay, good. And then come on back. All right, let that chair come down. Okay, so now we're going to come to the wall and do something that's called wall clock. So I'm going to be turning 90 degrees to the wall behind me. I'm going to take my arm up like so, and then I'm going to start to move my arm behind me slightly. So the movement is that arm bone in the shoulder socket, okay? Now, the distance or the closeness to the wall is going to depend on how you're feeling. So you might be an arm's length away from the wall. You might be straight up next to the wall, right? You get to decide because it's your body. You get to feel, you notice where things are at, okay? So arm comes on up. You decide how close or far you want to be. If your hand's starting to go a little numb, if there's pain or strain starting to pick up, then you might want to step away from the wall, okay? So let's imagine our hands on up, we're facing forward, and our hands at 12 o'clock. And then I want you to bring the arm backward. Yeah. So my right arm is up. So my arm is moving back toward 1 o'clock. Now your left arm might be up, and in that case, you'd be moving back to 11 o'clock. But just imagine you're on that clock. Easy, easy breathing. Feel your feet. And then if it's available, move your arm back a little bit more. Just a little bit, not a lot. We're not going for a stretch. We're helping to improve movement. Yeah?
breathing, notice if you can feel your belly and your rib cage, and then bring that arm down. Okay, so now you're here. Now notice the difference between your left and your right side. Good, and let's go to the other side. So, arm comes up. And then bring the arm back just a little bit. So maybe it's 11 o'clock. Maybe it is 1 o'clock. Whichever arm is up. Notice your breathing. Notice your feet. Remember that in yoga, the word asana, when it's loosely translated, is sitting comfortably and still. So just ask yourself, is this where you're at? And if you're not, can you find a place where that is? And it might be taking your arm down. It might be taking yourself further away. Find the sitting comfortably and still. Okay, lovely. And then bring that down. Now come into standing. Notice what it is that you're feeling. Yeah? Okay, so now we're going to do something similar. We're going to combine the standing twist and the wall clock here in standing on our mat. We're going to bring the arm up and we're going to swing back. And the arm comes up and then we swing it forward. Arm comes up. We're going to rotate down. Arm comes up. Rotate down. Let me show you this way. Arm up, rotate, down. Arm up, rotate, back. Arm up. Good. Okay? All right. Arm up, rotate. So we're doing a big fluid movement. Okay, now we're here. Now notice yourself in standing. Notice what it is that you feel. All right. Now come on back. Okay. And in sitting now, your spine is vertical. Your sitting bones are on the chair. Your feet are on the floor. And now notice. Notice your parts. Notice your breath. Consider that if your breathing is better, one of the things that might be contributing to that is that you now have a little more suppleness in your body so that it can move better to enable more breath to come in. Like your body is a mechanical pump, right? Before breath was breath, it was air in front of your face. There was a pressure change, the air comes in. But if you're super limited through that rib cage or your abdomen or your pelvic floor or your diaphragm, that's going to limit how much actually comes in and how you breathe. Easy, easy, easy. So I want you to imagine that if this practice really worked for you, if you are feeling calmer and better, or whatever word you would use to describe it, consider that that could be your new normal. And then just watch today when that feeling starts to fade a little bit. See if you can pick up on that. And then ask yourself, what can you do to intervene to enable that feeling to reemerge in a more expressive way? Right? So let's say it's calmer, and then the icky feeling is anxiety. So you're now feeling calmer. So now can you notice when you start to feel less calm? Right? That's a really important distinction, less calm. Because there's less and less and less and less calm before there comes to anxiety. Yeah? So imagine you can feel when that less calm feeling comes. And consider what can you do to intervene to help you bring back calm, which is different than compensating and buffering with food, alcohol, blah, 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 blah. Which if you need to do that, then do that for coping, absolutely. This is a different conversation. Notice when that calm feeling starts to fade. What can you do to intervene to enable that to be expressed? Know that if this is something new that you're experiencing that feels good, you can have more of it. Your system is showing you can have more of it. Yeah? So play with that today. Bring your hands together. And breathe in with ease. And out with gratitude. Here's to a really great day. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, right around 5 a.m. See you then. Take care.